The call lasted 6 minutes. No screaming, no struggle, no explanation. Just breathing. At first, the dispatcher thought the line was faulty. Then they heard it again. A slow inhale. A shaky exhale. Someone was there. They had dialed 911 on purpose. But they never said a single word. To this day, no one knows why. And no one knows what happened after the line went dead. On the surface, everything about that night seemed ordinary. It was a weekday, just after 11:40 p.m. The city was quiet in the way it only gets after midnight. Streetlights humming, televisions glowing behind curtains, people drifting toward sleep. The phone system logged the call automatically. A residential area. A valid number. Nothing flagged as unusual. The address belonged to a small, single-family home. No criminal history. No recent emergency calls. No record of domestic disputes. According to neighbors, the resident was quiet, kept to themselves, worked regular hours. Nothing about the home suggested danger. Nothing suggested urgency. And yet, someone inside that house dialed 911. When the dispatcher answered, they followed protocol.
911, what's your emergency?
No response. They tried again. Still nothing. But the line was open. In the background, there were faint sounds. Occasionally, a subtle shift, like someone adjusting their grip on the phone. The dispatcher asked simple questions. Can you hear me? Are you in danger? If you can't speak, make a noise. No response except for breathing. At one point, the dispatcher thought they heard a whisper, but couldn't be sure. Static, interference, or something else. After several minutes, the breathing became slower, shallower. Then the line went dead. Police were dispatched immediately. A silent call is never ignored. When officers arrived at the address, the house was dark. No lights on. No sounds. They knocked. No answer. They circled the property. Windows intact. Doors locked. Nothing appeared forced. Eventually, they entered. Inside, everything was normal. Furniture in place. No signs of struggle. No blood. No overturned objects. No person. The phone was found in the living room, off the hook. Still warm. At first, investigators assumed a mistake. A pocket dial. An accidental call. But that explanation fell apart quickly. Someone had stayed on the line for 6 full minutes. Someone had been breathing directly into the receiver. And someone had hung up. Phone records confirmed it wasn't a malfunction. The call had been manually placed. The resident was officially listed as missing. No car in the driveway, no wallet, no phone, except the landline. No note. No explanation. Neighbors were questioned. No one heard shouting and no unusual sounds. One neighbor mentioned seeing a light flicker on and off earlier that night, but couldn't say when exactly. Security cameras in the area showed nothing unusual. No one leaving the house on foot and no vehicles pulling away. It was as if the person had vanished between the call and the police arrival. Investigators reviewed the 911 recording repeatedly. They slowed it down, filtered the audio. At one point, a technician noted something unsettling. The breathing wasn't panicked. It was controlled, almost deliberate, as if the caller was calm, or trying to remain calm. Around the 4-minute mark, the dispatcher's voice changed. She stopped asking questions. Instead, she said something unexpected. Are you still there? The breathing paused, just for a second, then resumed. That pause raised a chilling question. Was the caller listening? Theories begin to surface. Theory 1. The caller was being watched. Perhaps they couldn't speak. Perhaps someone else was in the room. But there were no signs of a second presence, no forced entry, no witnesses. And if someone had been there, why leave no trace? Theory 2. Medical emergency. A stroke, a seizure. Someone unable to speak, struggling to breathe. But medical experts noted something strange. The breathing pattern didn't match distress. It was steady, intentional, almost waiting. Theory 3. Psychological distress. A person reaching out. Not for help, but for connection. Someone who needed to know another human was listening. But if that were the case, why disappear? Months later, the dispatcher was interviewed. She admitted the call still haunted her. Not because of what she heard, but because of what she felt. She said there was a moment, brief, almost imperceptible, when she felt like the caller was about to speak. Like something was forming. Then nothing. Silence. She described it as being on the edge of a confession that never came. Some investigators proposed a darker idea. What if the call wasn't about danger? What if it was about certainty? What if the caller already knew what was going to happen and dialed 911 not to be saved, but to be recorded? The phone line preserved the final evidence of existence. Breathing. Proof they were there. Years passed. No body was found and no sightings confirmed. The house was eventually sold. New occupants reported nothing unusual, but one claimed the landline would sometimes produce static, even though it was disconnected. Technicians found no fault. The case was quietly archived. Unsolved. The recording still exists. 6 minutes of silence. 6 minutes of breathing. No words. No answers. Just a human presence reaching out, and then disappearing forever. Was it fear? Was it restraint? Or was it something far more deliberate? We may never know. But somewhere, in an evidence room, that call still waits. Listening. If you dialed 911 knowing you couldn't speak, what would you want the person on the other end to understand? And if silence was your only option, would you use it? Some calls are meant to save lives. Others leave behind questions that never stop echoing. This was one of them.